Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this: a woman entirely on her own, no boyfriend, no male companion to rely on, just herself, her mind, her will, and the choices she makes. And here's the question: what does that mean? Is it a symbol of strength or a symptom of isolation? Is it liberation or is it loneliness disguised as independence? True independence is not simply the absence of reliance on others. It is the ability to take full responsibility for one's life. Many people mistake independence for freedom from obligation, but that is a shallow and misleading interpretation. Real independence means being accountable for one's actions, decisions, and their consequences. It means ensuring that life has direction, that each day is structured with intention, and that there is a clear pursuit of meaning. For a woman who lives alone, this responsibility is even more pronounced. Without a partner to share daily struggles and triumphs, she must ensure that her choices are aligned with long-term goals. It is easy to slip into patterns of complacency when there is no one around to hold her accountable. There is no external structure, forcing her to wake up early, to maintain discipline, or to push forward in times of difficulty. The challenge, then, is to develop an internal structure strong enough to replace the external one that relationships often provide. This responsibility extends to emotional well-being as well. It is one thing to enjoy solitude, but it is another to actively cultivate a fulfilling life. Without meaningful engagement through work, friendships, creative pursuits, or intellectual growth, living alone can lead to stagnation. If independence is not balanced with self-discipline, it can turn into a form of passive existence, where one avoids discomfort but also fails to achieve anything significant. Furthermore, responsibility means recognizing that independence should not come at the cost of meaningful connections. Being alone does not mean shutting oneself off from others. It means building relationships that are chosen intentionally rather than entered into out of necessity. A woman who truly embraces independence must ensure she is not merely existing in isolation, but actively shaping her life into something meaningful. Independence is not just a state of being. It is an ongoing process that requires effort, discipline, and a relentless pursuit of growth. Living alone can be a powerful experience, but there is a crucial difference between solitude and alienation. Solitude is a chosen state, one that allows for reflection, growth, and a deep connection with oneself. It is an opportunity to cultivate independence, to focus on personal development, and to structure life according to one's values and ambition. However, when solitude lacks purpose, it can easily slide into alienation, a state of emotional and social detachment that is often mistaken for independence. A woman who lives alone must be mindful of this distinction. Solitude can provide clarity, allowing her to focus on personal aspirations without the distractions of a relationship. It can be a time of immense growth where she learns new skills, deepens her intellectual pursuits, and strengthens her emotional resilience. But if she is not careful, the absence of regular human connection can create an invisible barrier between herself and the world. It can start with small things: avoiding social gatherings, choosing isolation over interaction, dismissing the need for companionship. And before long, what was once a choice becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a prison. Alienation does not happen overnight. It creeps in through a lack of engagement, through neglecting the fundamental human need for connection and shared experiences. Over time, one might convince themselves that relationships are unnecessary, that solitude is superior in all cases. But this is a dangerous mindset. People are social creatures, and no matter how independent one is, life gains meaning through interaction. Strength does not come from shutting people out. It comes from the ability to be alone while still fostering deep, meaningful relationships with others. The key is to ensure that solitude is used constructively. It should be a foundation for personal growth, not an excuse to disengage from the world. A woman who lives alone should actively seek experiences that challenge her, surround herself with enriching friendships, and remain connected to the broader community. If she does not, what was meant to be a period of empowerment may turn into a slow drift into isolation, something far more destructive than the discomfort of relationships ever could be. Human beings are inherently social creatures. shaped by millions of years of evolution that prioritized cooperation, connection, and community. No matter how strong or independent an individual may be, they are not meant to exist in isolation. Relationships provide meaning, challenge, and structure to life, offering perspectives that an individual cannot generate alone. While a woman does not need a boyfriend to feel complete, she does need meaningful relationships to remain psychologically and emotionally balanced. Living alone can create the illusion of self-sufficiency, but there is a fine line between independence and disconnection. It is easy to believe that being completely autonomous is the ideal state, yet history and psychological research suggest otherwise. People thrive when they engage in deep, meaningful interactions, whether with family, friends, mentors, or even professional communities. A life devoid of such connections risks becoming shallow, no matter how accomplished a person may be in other areas. Genuine independence is not about rejecting relationships, but about choosing them wisely. A woman who lives alone must ensure that her social world is not shrinking simply because she lacks a romantic partner. It is possible to cultivate rich and fulfilling friendships, to engage in intellectual discussions, to contribute to a community, and to form bonds that are just as valuable, if not more, than a romantic relationship. Neglecting this need can lead to unintended consequences, such as loneliness, stagnation, or an increasing sense of detachment from the broader human experience. Furthermore, relationships serve as mirrors, reflecting back aspects of ourselves that we may not see on our own. They challenge our ideas, provide support in difficult times, and offer opportunities for growth. Living alone does not mean facing the world without guidance or companionship. It means being intentional about the people one surrounds themselves with. A life without relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, is not a sign of strength. It is a missed opportunity to engage with the very thing that makes life meaningful: human connection. It is not enough to simply avoid bad relationships, unhealthy attachments, or dependency. A life built around avoidance is a defensive posture, not a strategy for true fulfillment. Many people believe that by steering clear of toxic relationships or refusing to settle for less, they are automatically on the right path. While this may protect them from immediate harm, it does not necessarily lead to a meaningful or fulfilling existence. True growth comes not just from eliminating negative influences, but from actively seeking and building something valuable in their place. A woman who lives alone without a boyfriend may feel a sense of relief in her independence, particularly if she has previously experienced relationships that drained or restricted her. However, once the initial comfort of solitude settles in, the question becomes, what is she doing with this independence? Avoiding something bad is not the same as pursuing something good. Without a conscious effort to develop skills, create meaningful relationships, contribute to a purpose, or engage in personal growth, independence can quickly turn into stagnation. Merely existing without external obligations does not make life meaningful. A person must take responsibility for ensuring that their time and energy are directed towards something worthwhile. This could mean building a career that challenges and fulfills them, investing deeply in friendships and intellectual pursuits, or finding ways to contribute to a cause greater than themselves. If a woman does not take on this responsibility, she risks falling into a passive state where life is dictated by comfort rather than purpose. There is a misconception that avoiding difficulty equates to success. In reality, life's deepest rewards come from overcoming meaningful challenges, not from sidestepping them. A fulfilling life is not defined by what one avoids, but by what one actively creates. Independence, when not paired with purpose and effort, can become a hollow shell, an illusion of freedom that conceals a lack of true direction. The goal should not just be to remain unburdened, but to become someone who carries the weight of a meaningful existence with strength and intention. Society often frames the narratives of men and women differently when it comes to living alone. A man without a partner is frequently seen as someone who has failed in some way, perhaps lacking ambition, stability, or the ability to attract a partner. A woman, on the other hand, is often portrayed as empowered, independent, and strong if she chooses to live without a boyfriend. While this shift in perception may seem like progress, it is important to question whether it truly serves either gender in a meaningful way. These narratives, shaped by cultural expectations, do not necessarily align with the deeper truths of human nature. Both men and women have fundamental psychological and emotional needs for connection, purpose, and personal growth. To suggest that a man must prove himself through relationships while a woman is inherently successful by avoiding them is an oversimplification that ignores the complexity of human fulfillment. Strength and independence are not defined by relationship status, but by the ability to take responsibility for one's life and contribute meaningfully to the world. For a woman who lives alone, the danger of this cultural narrative is that it can create a false sense of achievement. Independence is valuable, but it should not be mistaken for the end goal. If living alone is framed as an inherent victory, it may discourage deeper self-examination about what truly makes life fulfilling. Simply rejecting dependence on a man does not automatically lead to happiness or growth. What matters is what she is building, whether she is growing intellectually, forming meaningful relationships, and actively shaping her future. Likewise, the expectation that a man must constantly prove his worth through relationships can push him toward connections that are not based on genuine compatibility, but on the need to meet societal expectations. Both men and women need to reject superficial narratives and focus instead on individual responsibility, purpose, and the pursuit of a meaningful life. Instead of measuring success through outdated societal lenses, the real question should be, is a person living in a way that challenges them to grow, build, and contribute to something greater than themselves? Living alone is not inherently a problem, but living without purpose is. A woman who chooses to live without a boyfriend has every right to do so, but the real question is not about her relationship status. It is about what she is doing with her time, her energy, and her independence. Independence is not an achievement in itself. It is a tool that allows a person to build something meaningful. Without a clear direction, the freedom of living alone can quickly turn into a state of passive existence, where days blend into each other without any real sense of progress or fulfillment. Purpose is what separates a fulfilling life from an empty one. A person needs structure, goals, and a vision for their future, or they risk falling into a pattern of mere survival rather than true living. For some, purpose may be found in their career, striving toward professional excellence, mastering a craft, or contributing to a field that inspires them. For others, it may be about intellectual or creative pursuits, engaging in activities that bring depth and meaning to their experiences. And for many, purpose is deeply tied to relationships, not necessarily romantic ones, but friendships, mentorships, family bonds, and community connections that provide support and enrichment. The mistake many people make when they embrace solitude is believing that being free from external obligations is the same as living a meaningful life. But meaning is not something that appears on its own. It must be built, cultivated, and pursued with effort and discipline. If a woman lives alone and does not actively engage with the world around her, she risks drifting into a form of isolation that masquerades as independence. She may feel comfortable, but comfort is not the same as growth. To truly thrive, she must be intentional about how she spends her time. Independence should be a foundation for self-improvement, exploration, and contribution, not an excuse to withdraw from the world. Without an aim, solitude becomes emptiness, but when paired with purpose, it becomes one of the most powerful and fulfilling ways to live.